It was nearly dusk in a quiet New Hampshire town, the kind of place where porch lights blinked on like fireflies and the air smelled faintly of pine and chimney smoke. Emma Carson, 34, sat in her aging blue Honda Civic, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel as the red light lingered longer than usual. Her mind was scattered due next week, her job at the bookstore barely covering bills, and her mother's memory fading more with each passing visit to the care home. She sighed. Life felt small, routine, like she was moving through fog. Then she saw him. An old man stood at the edge of the sidewalk, hunched, wearing a heavy brown coat and holding a rusted cane. His white beard trembled slightly in the breeze, and he was peering down the road as if waiting for something, or someone. But the street was empty. The light turned green. Cars honked behind her. Emma hesitated. Then she pulled over. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the loneliness in his eyes, or the way the wind tugged at his coat like it wanted to carry him off. She rolled down the window. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need a ride somewhere?" He turned, surprised. His face lit up not in fear, but with a strange gentleness. "I suppose I could use one," he said in a gravel, soft voice. "If it's not too much trouble." Emma unlocked the door. The man introduced himself simply as Walter. No last name, no small talk. She tried to ask where he was going, but his directions were vague. "Just a few miles down this road. I'll tell you where to turn." That would have unsettled anyone else. But something about him, his politeness, the way he looked out the window with a faraway sorrow, made her trust him. For a while, they drove in silence. Then Walter spoke. "You remind me of my daughter." Emma glanced over. "Oh?" "She was your age when I last saw her. Kind eyes, soft voice, drove an old Honda just like this one." Emma smiled faintly. "What happened to her?" Walter took a long breath. She stopped needing her old man. Emma didn't respond. There was a weight in his words, a sadness too big to intrude on. After a few more turns, he pointed to a small roadside diner. "Can we stop here? I'd like to buy you a coffee." She hesitated. She had planned on going straight home, but something told her this wasn't just about coffee. Inside, the place smelled like old grease and fresh cinnamon rolls, the kind of diner that hadn't changed since the 60s. Walter sat at the corner booth like he'd been there before. Maybe he had. They sipped coffee. Emma learned Walter had once been a carpenter, had built porches, cabinets, even a church altar up in Vermont. He spoke of his late wife, Helen, in soft tones, like she was still beside him. "She had this way," he said, "of making you feel like you were worth something, even on your worst day." Emma nodded slowly. "Sounds like she was one of a kind." Walter smiled. "She was. I messed things up after she passed, pushed people away, thought I could do it all alone." A pause. Then, "I haven't spoken to my daughter in 18 years. Emma's breath caught. "I don't even know where she lives now. I carry this picture of her," he said, reaching into his coat and pulling out a small, worn photo. A young woman holding a toddler, both laughing at something outside the frame. "Her name's April." Emma stared at the photo. Something tugged at her an ache she couldn't name. "She was angry," Walter continued. "I missed her graduation, then her wedding. Told myself I had reasons, but really, I was just scared." Emma felt her throat tighten. "Maybe she's waiting for you to find her." Walter chuckled bitterly. "That's a beautiful thought, but not all stories get happy endings." Emma thought of her own mother, how the memory loss was like watching her slowly disappear, How she wished she had more time to say things that now went unspoken. "I think," Emma said softly, "some people are waiting. They just don't know how to say it." Emma offered to drive him to a shelter afterward, but Walter declined. "I have one more place I need to go," he said. "Will you come with me?" She nodded without hesitation. He guided her to an old cemetery on the edge of town. Snow dusted the tops of the gravestones like icing on forgotten cakes. He walked slowly to one headstone and knelt. Emma followed. The headstone read, "Helen Grace Thomas, beloved wife and mother, 1943, 2004. Emma stepped back. Walter whispered, "I told Helen I'd bring our daughter here someday. Let her see her mother's resting place. Tell her everything I never said." Tears filled his eyes. "But I never found April, and I don't know if I ever will." Emma crouched beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Walter turned to her, trembling. "Would you do something for me?" "Of course. If you ever see someone who reminds you of her, tell her her father's sorry and that he never stopped loving her." Emma's own tears came now, uninvited, blurring her vision. "I will." 2 weeks passed. Emma couldn't stop thinking about Walter. She'd gone back to the diner. No one had seen him. She asked around. Nothing. Then one day at work, while reorganizing a box of donated books at the bookstore, something fell out of a hardback copy of Leaves of Grass. It was the photo. The same photo Walter had shown her. But on the back, in faded ink, was written, "April Carson age, 41993. Carson, Emma's last name." Her hands trembled. She raced home, dug through old boxes, called her aunt in Maine, even phoned her estranged cousin in Ohio. And the truth came in pieces. Her father had left when she was young. Her mother had refused to speak of him. She changed their last names, said it was for the best. Walter wasn't a stranger. He was her father. Emma sat in the diner booth, heart pounding. It had been 3 days since she found the photo. 3 days of sleepless nights, doubt, and wondering whether it was too late. Then the bell above the door rang. He walked in slowly, looking around. Their eyes met. Walter froze. Emma stood, her voice caught. "Dad?" His cane clattered to the ground. He looked like he couldn't breathe. Emma stepped forward, tears streaking her face. "I found your photo. I didn't know. Mom never told me. But you were the man in the car." Walter reached out, hands shaking. And in the middle of that old diner, as snow began to fall outside, they embraced father and daughter, strangers no longer. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know," she said. "Me too." Walter moved into the small guest room in Emma's apartment. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He came with her on weekends to visit her mother, though she barely remembered him. Still, he held her hand, spoke softly to her like he had to Helen. And every Thursday they visited the diner. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of kindness to rewrite the ending of a story long believed to be over. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to The Kind Story. Let's spread more kindness in the world, one story at a time. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction or dramatized for entertainment purposes. While it may be inspired by real human emotions and events, all characters, names, and situations are either entirely fictional or modified for storytelling. This content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and is intended to inspire, not mislead,